Hi again. This video is to be viewed after you've started your observation project. If you look at it before, it won't make much sense because it will be trying to think about a thesis before you've actually done some observations. You may go out to a place and have some ideas about what you might be writing about, but the thesis really should be firmed up and decided upon after you start observing, just like Samuel Scudder, just like our readings, just like our examples in class. Of course, the common problem with this assignment is that you face all these details that you've recorded for me if you've done the assignment, if you've gotten into the spirit of what you've been asked to do. And you're asking yourself, well, what main point can I derive from that? All those details, how can I collect them around a main point? It's really something that writers face for most of their writing assignments. It's very rare that you're asked to write an encyclopedia entry or something that doesn't have some kind of main point, even if that main point is that the reader has to know what I'm writing about. In this case, the main point will govern which details get included and which get excluded. A common problem that you face with this assignment is that you might have descriptions that serve no purpose, and that's why we need to work on them. That's why we need to work on the purpose for the paper, the thesis for the paper, the main point, the thing that governs what things get included and what things get eliminated. Okay. You'll find, if you've got a main point, that there's some details that won't fit, and you have to discard those. Now, I don't do much fancy animation. You know I don't. But you'll have more details than you'll have needed for your main point. It doesn't mean that that they're unnecessary just because it's long or the paper's getting long. What I'm trying to say is that they'll have details that don't seem to support or illustrate some central idea that you have. So cutting them will be one of the eventual goals. Don't do it right away. I find that students either can't cut anything and think their writing's perfect, or then they try and cut everything. And that's the two extremes. You have to find some happy middle between those two. Usually, as I said before in another video, and as I probably talked about in class, you will get to the thesis during or after you begin the observations. Then you decide which observations fit. Really odd process, and yet it's so common that we emphasize teaching it really early in the course. You may have some rough idea of what you're going to discover out there. Yet really sitting out there is part of the purpose of the assignment. Sitting out there, observing the place, taking a record of that place, and then making some inference, just like some of the readings that we discussed in class, just like Samuel Scudder. Now, here's a warning. People don't like that fact until they get used to it. But it's really so common in college that we try to emphasize it. It's something that try to ingrain in people, just as Samuel Scudder had it ingrained in him. The thesis is really what you're writing for, the purpose of your writing, of course. It includes some subject, where you're sitting and observing or what you're observing. That's kind of the first point, and it's where sometimes students stop. That's why I make this little video and why I want to really hit home the idea that it's not just about the place. You can't just wrap it up by saying, well, that about wraps it up for them all. That's all I saw there. Or that's about what I saw in the park. No. You have the subject. That might be where you're going. You might call that a topic, actually. And a topic is not necessarily a thesis. A topic might be your place, the people at that place, the nature at that place, the individual items, or even you at that place. That could be your subject. But the thesis has to include some comment, and it should be a significant comment, even profound and interesting, on that topic. Think back to the examples that we have in class. This was the best entomological lesson, best lesson that I ever had, says Samuel Scudder. Or Agassiz has a thesis for his pupil. Facts are boring things until brought into relationship under some general law. There should be another ellipses there. I don't know why I got cut off. Maybe by PowerPoint. Or in another reading that I frequently teach, lots of things deflect students from serendipity, but students could really benefit from it. Notice that these are ideas that are comments. They're comments on the topic. It's not just about the topic themselves. It's not just about fish. It's not just about students. It's about what you notice about those things. So the comment is much longer than one word. It can be sometimes up to 2 sentences about that topic. And it creates interest and says something usually significant about that topic. Thesis is really what you're writing for. Usually about a person or two, about the place, about people in that place, though you don't want to be so general that you're just talking about everyone. That's why I say it, that first one. It's about a person or two, probably about 1 or 2 people. Or it's about you in that place, which sometimes is quite interesting indeed. you know anything about the sciences, people have discovered, it's a recent discovery historically in science, that a scientist or someone observing can affect the surroundings that they're observing. It doesn't have to be your thesis, but it could be a very interesting one, a very compelling one. But think about these possibilities. These aren't ones to limit you. Maybe you don't see your thesis or the idea that you're thinking about in this list. Come to me and talk to me about it. I'm trying to give you representative examples so you don't feel like you have to talk about everything, because talking about everything probably won't result in the best or most successful effort. Okay, so there's your thesis ideas, some thesis ideas for what you're writing for. Overall, remember that as you're doing this, you take those details that you've gathered from your observations and usually you winnow out the details that don't fit. And you might even expand on the details that you have, so long as you've taken a careful record while you've done your observations. That's pretty key. That's why I recommended doing that as you started this assignment. Those details get shaved off so that your main point is very clear and illustrated by all the details that you've included and all the illustrative examples. Okay? All the descriptions that you've provided. What can I use as an example of this? Here's a student paper. So that's a thesis in the abstract. What does a thesis look like in a paper? Here's an excerpt. That means a part of a paper that I've chosen to use for demonstrating creating a thesis. And it comes from a student who, in the fall, hunts quite a bit. So I use it with her permission so I can show you what a thesis looks like for her. Please don't copy it or use it for any other purpose. Remember, I only have student papers so long as I can use them to demonstrate something to a class. If a student actually borrows it or uses it, writing that they see in any of the class for another class, it's not getting the most out of your assignments, obviously, and it's violating plagiarism rules. So, okay, a student paper. She says, in this excerpt I presented to you here, once you climb up and let everything settle down, you'll start to notice things. The squirrel making repeated trips from the forest floor to the nest, his cheeks puffy on the way up with the nut, the territorial blue jay yelling at everything that comes within 10 feet of him, the other squirrel staring at you from an adjacent tree wondering, did that tree always have a 100-pound bulge in its trunk? Kind of a little joke referring to the writer. There sits a rabbit so still for so long, and you start to wonder if you're looking at a rock. It isn't just listing things, it's actually taking each bit, each thing that the writer is noticing while she's hunting and describing them in some detail. We get to the end and she's reached a conclusion where she started to articulate a thesis. What's that thesis? It's like the ones that we've experienced in our reading, where it says something profound about the experience, not just that I was there, but what I discovered while I was there. She says, you may not think that perching high in trees is someplace for anyone but squirrels and birds, but I'm here to tell you that I fit in really well. And she'll actually go on, Jenny will, to talk about how this environment heightens her senses, makes her feel more alive, right? And the idea here is that she's using the details of her description paper to help demonstrate some larger point at work and communicate what it's like to be there. It's not an ordinary experience, an extraordinary experience. And she needs to put us there to help us understand that. Thus, she started with her thesis for what it means to be in this place, what it means for her to be in this place. Like Samuel Scudder, it is about observing herself and observing herself changing as she goes into a new environment. All right, so the creation of a thesis through looking at examples. We'll see more in class. I'll ask you to actually share yours. We'll try out different ones. If you find yourself creating a thesis and then revising it, it's very normal. You might even go to expect not to get a thesis the first time out. That was a nice sentence. The idea that you're trying to create one and revise it and get it just so that the thesis interacts with the details of the assignment and demonstrates exactly what you want to say about the place. Going back to our little slide here. Okay, yeah, and we don't want to record this stuff. That the main point only has those details that are relevant to what you want to say.